that steep grade up ahead, slow me down and making no time. Gotta keep on rolling. Those windshield wipers slapping out the tempo, break the funky rhythm with the song on the radio.
Oops, did everybody get a good look at that?
Sneak peek.
Ooh. No, I wanted to give everybody. So, hey, everybody, what's up? I want to give you a sneak peek. Look at next week and look at some of these people, guys. Do you know them all?
I don't know who the girl in the left-hand corner is.
Kim?
Yeah.
Was that guy in the middle there?
We got Gigwise. We got Dash Theory TV. We got Dasher Pass. We got Cheyenne. We get Gig Work Mama. We got Kim Side Money Plans. We got Yes Entertainment Network Dana. We got Let's Play DoorDash. We got Yost Malone. And we got Tom Kelly. And we're going to be doing a game show. So you guys, next week's going to, and it's Ugly Sweater too. So bring it.
And I'm going to say the same thing.
Yost already said, Yost sent me a text saying, I'm going to beat everybody with the ugly sweater.
I'm sure he will, because I said last year, and I'll say it again this year, I don't do ugly.
Yeah, I don't have any ugly sweaters.
Ugly sweater can be fun too.
Well, I'll just do the same thing I wore last year. It's all good.
I probably will too. Remember mine? Maybe this year I'll get a bra too, so I can really bring them out. You don't remember the shirt, do you?
Oh, I do.
Okay.
It's a kind of a hard shirt to not remember. The whole entire time I was like this.
So okay, we're waiting for Tom. Tom is feeling better, guys. But let me just introduce who we do have here tonight. We got Kim Side Money Plans. And we got Gig Work Mama. And also, guys, by the way, give some applause to yourselves as well as to Cheyenne. She clipped 1,000.
Yay!
She hit 1K. So big deal, guys.
Thank you.
It's a big deal, you know.
That was awesome. It was a great weekend.
I see that Miko had already said something about it up here in the so.
Yes, thank you guys so much. That was awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, look. So hey, what's up, that gig life? What's up, Carl? What's up, Traveler? What's up, Gigwise? What's up, Bud Soda? And gigging in the Great North. What's up, Derek? And who else do we got in here? Josh and Miko, and Gary and Thomas and Joe, and I think I got everybody. What's up, guys? And what's up, stalkers that are watching without typing? I'm not even gonna call you
Make sure you hit that like button
or anything else anymore. Just you're stalkers, man. Type.
You can stalk as long as you hit that thumbs up button. You're all good.
exactly.
I think what we're doing tonight is kind of continuing the conversation because look, next week we're going to have a fun game show. We're going to have all those fun contestants. And I mean, like, even Faith, I threw her in last minute. I was like, I just texted her out of nowhere. I was like, will you do this? And she's like, she's like, I will for you, because she's kind of been out of that loop, but it's just going to be a really fun group of guys. Hi, Vanaska. How are you? But so I want to have, I just want to put this to rest because I mean, until the new year, because I think in the new year, we'll have a lot, and I know we'll have a lot of new things to talk about, but I think that more has happened. I'm surprised how many people I'm seeing are like this New York thing. I watched Kim and Zach had Sergio on Money Hungry last night, and it was a great episode. All of the three of them seemed on the same page that this is not a win, guys. This is not even close to a win. And I got to tell you that DoorDash is already looking at removing. I don't know if you guys saw Pedro's video yesterday about losing Top Dasher, or he can't dash now anymore. He's a Top Dasher, and Dash Now is a feature that's been lost. It's funny that he did that because I texted him after the fact, and that is a feature that's going away in many markets, like before the new year. So there is some of the markets that I saw too are in the states that have major legislation. So makes sense. They're trying to get ahead of the game here and make it look like they're treating the people better. But in reality, we all know where this is going. This is going down a horrible place. I mean, Kim and I had a conversation before we came on here tonight, just about how saturated these markets are. I saw a news report that a couple months back I saw we had, and I guess I must have been longer than I thought, because it said to date this calendar year we had 8 million illegal immigrants. Okay, well, today or yesterday I saw the actual numbers revealed. It's 13 million. We have 13 million illegals in this country from this year alone. I know it might seem like they're everywhere in all types of jobs, and they are kind of, but gig economy is their primary work. So that what I was calling triple saturation last week, we all have oversaturation, but that triple saturation of that, I mean, when you think about 13 million, it's a lot of people. And Kim's seen it. I've seen it. I've dealt with it firsthand. I told Kim I was dealing with somebody who I was doing a catering at BJ's Brew House. And I don't know, Cheyenne, you might not have those up there. But we have them I think they're pretty much in all states or nationwide. But so I was in there. I had a catering bag. I showed him my order. He said, "You're probably going to need 2. I had another bag in my drink carrier. Went out and got my other catering bag. There was another guy in there with a little roller cart and 2 catering bags, some other bags. And then a lady walked in who didn't speak any English at all. He was dealing with getting our 2 orders, and she was doing the push the phone in the face thing. She didn't speak any English, and he's just like, let me work with them first, then I'll get to you. So I went over and I was trying to talk to her because we were all waiting for things to happen. So I was like, let me see, I'm trying to help you. And she showed me the phone. First thing was, it was a guy's account. She was using a guy's account. It was not hers. She had no catering bags. She did not speak any English. And she was in there. And then as he started bringing out the food and she saw us loading them into these big catering bags and how it actually happened, it was an easy cater order, and I think it was through delivered or whatever. But the guy who was getting food at the same time as me, who was ready to do catering as well, was standing there, and he had heard the whole thing. And I was like reading it, and even though she didn't understand, I'm just like kind of trying to make sense of it for her. And she ends up looking at the phone, looking around, you could tell it was sketchy, and she leaves. Just leaves. She walks out the door. And then the guy, I hadn't even talked to him yet. And him and I were in there before her. She was in there, or when she left, he was like, "That's so weird." He's like, "I heard you reading off that order." And he showed me his phone. It was the exact same order. It was like literally, it was the same easy cater order. Same items, same everything. I had just looked at it. I was like, what? And I know that we hear about this happening. We hear about people getting dispersed. Kim's had caterings. I think she's got 2, and they're not.
It happened twice in like the same week, and I was getting so annoyed because I showed up 10 minutes early. I'm always early for every catering order, and they're like, "Your order just went out the door," or I'm like, "Son of a gun!" Like it's a waste of time. Like I feel like I just completely wasted my time.
And I know that the catering apps are paying, a decent amount for you to be there. But look, if we're scheduling these things, it's important because they're trying to be better than the other apps, and they are. I mean, most people doing any likewise catering on like a DoorDash are not used. I've seen them. They're not. Most of the food's just being carried out, thrown into a car. I've watched people do some really nasty stuff. And you guys know I don't do a lot of DoorDash, but in the little time I've been doing it lately, I've noticed a lot of, not maybe as many as some cities, which I'm kind of surprised about, but I've noticed a lot of immigrants, a lot less orders. And again, I've talked to some people who are saying their market's saturated with immigrants. I don't see ours that way yet, but I'm not maybe doing enough. But I do see that a lot of people are not prepared. They don't know what they're doing. It's not the hardest thing in the world, but they don't have bags, and they're picking up like large amounts of food. I see them at pizza places without a pizza bag. and they're picking
Wow.
up 5 pizzas, and I see them carry them out. And just to give you guys some context, it's been snowing here. Like, you don't want your pizza cold. I mean, I'll eat cold pizza, but I want to make it cold, and then I'll eat it. Like, I don't want it to arrive cold. So I guess my thing is like where the issue becomes with like Food Fetched, Easy Cater, some of these other ones that go courier that feed into the Paraworks, delivered that's like somehow if Easy Cater sends something out, and we actually had the CEO of Delivered explain this to us a little bit. It was like if they send it out and they're not getting a confirmation from somebody, it might get a bounce back to Easy Cater that this isn't getting taken through that app, even though somebody took it, is probably at the place waiting. Maybe he just didn't click I'm on my way to get it. So even though they have GPS, they're just not seeing it, and they don't think he's there. So it's, but if it's getting reassigned, you got 2 people there, and the payouts aren't $5 cancellation fees. They pay you a decent amount of money if they're putting you in the wrong place. So they got to get this stuff figured out, because the reason they exist is because they need to make sure that this is being handled like catering orders. I mean, I've said this before, if DoorDash, nobody would ever have DoorDash cater an event for them.
No.
I don't know why. Some people have, and like I literally know the amount of horror stories I've heard about the few people that have, like, I've heard about people getting catering orders and then just getting a call saying just forget it, or it's canceled, and keep the food. And I'm thinking, what do you mean? Like, I get if there's screw ups along the way, but what do you mean keep the food, and what do you mean forget it? Like, if I'm on the other end of that and I did use DoorDash, I'm gonna be hella pissed, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
Like and not only that, yes, I'm gonna want my money back. Yes, they're not gonna be expedient about it. They're gonna probably take 5 to 7 days. I'm gonna have to talk to people, even though it's their problem. They're some of the worst customer service that there is, and they're not meant to do catering. Catering is not food delivery, and people need to understand that. Yeah. I mean, that was a whole thing before gig economy. Catering is a different job.
Yeah, I just want to answer GigWise's question real quick. I got full pay for both of the orders that got canceled on me. What was explained to me when I got there, and this is what they think is happening, is sometimes the restaurant and whatever system they're using just like call for 2 drivers because they think that a driver's not going to show up. I guess maybe they've had bad experiences, so they call for 2 drivers, and 2 drivers show up, and they might go to 2 different catering, companies that do it, and they think that's what happened in my case. The one case, it was a DoorDash driver came, and I knew it was a DoorDash driver, and I was on a catering app. I knew I was going to get full pay, so I actually was nice enough, and I actually let the DoorDash driver take it because he already had kind of custody of it, but I knew he was only going to get half pay, and I know I was going to get full pay for it, so I let him take it just based off of that. I was trying to be nice. But yes, Easy Cater is messed up sometimes, a lot of times.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw a comment earlier from Bud Soda too about Easy Cater screwing things up. I don't know if they screw things up. I think they just are the biggest company dispersing, and they're using so many different feeds. I already know of some of the routes that they use. What I don't understand, none of us do, is what's behind the scenes and how they're reallocating. Like what Kim just described sounds like some of the worst business model I've ever heard. Let's send 2 drivers and see if one shows up.
Yeah, and crazy. Every time it's been a DoorDash catering order. So there is some kind of signals being crossed between a lot of these apps that they're dispersing them to multiple apps. And I don't know whether, I'm making this up. It's completely made up. Say like Deliver gets it, and Deliver does have a driver for it, but it doesn't register in the Easy Cater's system, and then it gets dispersed to DoorDash. And I feel like there's a cross something happening. I'm not sure what.
I know that we talked to Delivered. They will be going to, they're in Toronto and they're in Vancouver. They will be hitting Montreal as their third city. But do you have other catering?
I was actually just responding to that. I don't know of any, but I think it's also because I don't work daytime. So maybe like I haven't looked into any. But I don't know of any. Like when you said that Delivered was in Toronto and Vancouver, I was like, oh, I didn't know that.
And they're aware of, he even mentioned the French part, because I was like, on Parapulse, we can see that oddly we're seeing a lot of Canada stuff. So we can see Vancouver, we can see Toronto lights up, but so does Montreal. You guys have a lot of people using Pulse and we just don't get it. But when I mentioned it to him, he said, oh, we're well aware of the Montreal market. There's a big thing for us there. He goes, part of our challenge will be the French Canadians.
Yep.
And I was like, that's strange. I guess
It's
the
no
reason
joke.
being you're going to need some customer support that are French
Exactly.
speaking.
You're going to need customer support that's French. Your documentation has to be in French because over here, French is before English. So all of your documentation needs to be in French. Like it's, they just make it so.
French is before
difficult.
English?
Yes. Yes.
I thought it was
Quebec.
like, I thought the French Canadians, of course, they would be, but I thought
in Quebec,
I thought the city was kind of split. I thought it was like
no.
Really?
Right now, if I'm to call, let's say for a passport or a medical card or anything like that, they speak to you in French. When I signed up my latest business, I had to fill out all the documentation in French. You cannot request an English document anymore. Like it's gotten really bad actually, because there are a lot of people who are like, what about the older people that need help in the medical field, and you're telling them that you can't speak to them in English? Like this, it doesn't make any sense. So a lot of companies are actually trying to get out of Quebec because of that.
So before we even get into this a little more, are you dealing with any immigration issues?
I don't see anything like that. Granted, I do see a lot more drivers now, but I just figured like, oh, okay, there's more drivers because things are hard. So people are trying to make more money. But I didn't notice anything sketchy. But we do have a lot of immigrants here. So whether they're here like legally, illegally, using an app legally or illegally, I'm not sure.
See, but there's also a difference too, because if we go back like 3 years, we would have legal and illegal immigrants. We just didn't have 13 million illegal.
Yeah.
We had like 1 million come over in a year, and they all had court dates, and a lot don't show and whatnot. But it wasn't as bad. I mean, like it's so bad now. I guess you probably are just at that same old rate because you guys have you're not bordered up with an open way to go across the board. I mean, look, the only country I know, I've traveled the world. The only country I know that you can walk into illegally is the United States. It's the only one. Every other country is very tight with their borders.
Yeah.
Like over in Europe, you're not getting in anywhere without one.
Some people try to come in, but we're also very like open arms, like, come, you don't have anywhere to go. Just come and we'll take care of you. And it's like, okay. So,
yeah, but there's still a process to it. I don't feel like, there's not just a hole in a gate and everybody's like running through it and we're not allowed to do anything about it.
No.
I mean,
no, that's true. That's true. That is one of the big
because I guess people in the chat too, I'd like to know, like, are you seeing it? I really do. I mean, it's time to like bring this up. I mean, is everybody seeing immigrants, these illegal accounts? Because I want to talk about some of what Kim and Zach and those guys talked about last night, because I was seeing the same damn thing. I mean, I've known about this on Reddit for a while. On Reddit, you can buy accounts, you can rent accounts, you can go to the dark web and do it too, of course. But Facebook groups?
Yeah, so I started researching this months ago because that's when I really started seeing it in my market, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. So I always had a really good market. And then all of a sudden in my small town in New Jersey, I started seeing tons of Pennsylvania plates, New York plates, and they were all drivers because you see them going into restaurants and you're like, what is, like, I couldn't figure it out, and they all drive a very specific car. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. And then all of a sudden there was an article, I think it was on the New York Times, and it was like a light bulb went off, and they give a really good account on exactly what's been happening. It started in New York City, and now it's like migrating, at least on the East Coast, into New Jersey, some into Connecticut, some into Pennsylvania. So it kind of depends on where you go, but they're purposely oversaturating markets, and they're literally taking every single order, including the $2 orders, every order. It doesn't matter. But they're purposely like almost disintegrating. I don't know if that's the right word to use on specific areas. So they kind of take over an entire area that they're in. So they are basically dominating the orders
You mean
that come into their descending. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. Sorry.
Disintegrating.
I'm like,
they're
I
like
don't
melting.
know. Hey, it's 9:30 here. Come on, it's been a long day already.
I know. I was just like, you should be shooting video if they're melting.
Sorry. 9:30. What can I tell you?
But yeah, I mean, honestly, Kim, like, you're not the only one. I see it. I mean, some people are talking about in chat. We avoided this topic for a long time. Now we're talking about it a little more. Sergio and I talked about it on my 300th episode. Since we've been a little more open about talking about it, and all I'm finding is everybody's encountering this. I mean, nowhere's immune. Red states aren't immune. I mean, obviously Texas isn't immune because that's where they cross over, but then they ship them out to the blue states. That's what they do. I mean, they've even said that. Texas's governor said, "Yeah, we're not keeping them. We're gonna send them to all you blue states that wanted this crap."
This is the thing: is all of these apps, DoorDash, Uber Eats, they all have the power to stop it. The thing is,
100%.
they're not doing anything to stop it. Like they all have. I mean, DoorDash, when was the last time you did a facial recognition? Mine was like 6 months ago.
I was going to tell you, I was listening to you guys last night all talking about that and saying, and Sergio saying it happens a little more on Rideshare, but wouldn't you be willing to do it every 2 hours? Yeah. I've already talked to him about that. Yes, I would. But DoorDash does it to me. Again, I don't use DoorDash much, and it's just been recent. But even once I did it once, twice, I've had like 5 DoorDash blocks that I've done now. Every one of them has at least had one.
No, I haven't had
I've
one.
I've never done one on DoorDash.
Haven't had one in 6 months.
Never.
I had never either, but I hadn't done a DoorDash in months.
Uber Eats, at least for me, is like once a week. Bark is now once a week. Instacart, once maybe every couple of weeks, I would say. It's not as often, but like they all have these facial recognition features that they can literally, if it went to like every hour, there's no way they can go to their handler and, get a facial ID and then go like every hour. There's no way they can go to whatever handler they have to do that facial recognition, and it would just stop.
But you know how they could figure it out, though? They could just like snap a picture, the facial, snap a picture of the side, snap a picture of the side, and then put that up on the screen. Like there would be ways.
And it would be a 2D. It wouldn't be a 3D. I don't think it would recognize it.
Yeah, I mean the other thing is just why is, I mean, I think what you're saying, Cheyenne, is like then the passenger could address it. Why should it be in the passenger's hand? Why aren't these companies demand? I mean, we used to know that the facial software wasn't where it should be. The Microsoft one that they were using in Europe only operated at like at best 70%. People of color, nighttime, women, it had trouble. It failed with those all the time. So they were having tons of problems. I guess this was only a year ago, but I guess it's come a long way. It's we know why they're not doing it, guys. Because they don't.
They're getting orders delivered. Why would they stop it? They're getting orders delivered.
and like Kim showed they showed last night, and you can go look for yourself. If you go to Facebook Marketplace, you can just type in DoorDash account. Or rent DoorDash, whatever you want to do, and they will come up. They're there. And I mean, and I would say they're not a scam, but they're all scams. But I mean, like, you will get an account too. People are getting accounts this way and able to use them. And that's why, like, I know that like a lot of the situation is 3 people using an account 24 hours a day. And that probably goes to what Kim was saying about taking every order. They don't know any better. They probably think if they don't speak English, like I've seen with some, right? They probably think that 100% matters. And they're like, dude, what if that drops and I won't get more? So they probably are really taken by the gamification, is my guess.
I
Like,
wonder
oh my
if it
gosh,
would
I've got to do
benefit.
this or else I'm not going to be able to work it. So they're taking everything.
But I wonder if it would benefit if like DoorDash instilled that whole what is it with Uber? You can't work for more than 12 hours per account. Like if DoorDash was to do something like
But
that.
again, they don't care. They really, I mean, they don't care about the drivers, number one, but they don't care. They're glad these accounts are being used 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
I mean, for real.
Yeah.
They don't care. They're like, great, that account's being used 24 hours a day, and they're taking all the no tip orders. Great.
Gigwise, who pays the taxes on those bogus orders? They don't pay taxes. They're like these Canadians over here that are freaking out now that we're gonna have to tell the government that they're working with the apps.
Well,
Everyone's
I think
like,
what Gigwise is saying is whoever owns the account
Yeah.
will get tax documents mailed to them, so it will be on them.
Do you guys get your tax documents mailed to you?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean,
Well,
some of
one
them you can
ours are online.
download through
I
an
get all
app
mine
or
online.
whatnot. But I mean, like, yeah, I mean, but what do you mean? Why? How do you get yours?
Yeah, because we don't.
How do you
How
get
do you do your
yours?
taxes?
So you have to calculate. So with Uber, you do get it every single week, and then you tally it up with yourself. Like we don't.
Wait,
I
what?
didn't get a document from DoorDash. I didn't get anything from DoorDash.
See, that's really weird because we get a
So you have to do your
1099.
taxes by week?
No,
she's
not
saying
we
that they
to
have
do
to
them by
do
week.
their own
It's
math
my
week by week.
responsibility to tally everything up. DoorDash doesn't send me anything. I've never received anything from DoorDash.
What about at the end of the year? You can't go into your taxes and say, I want to download it. They don't have.
No. And with Uber, no. And the annoying thing with DoorDash when it comes to DoorDash Canada, so let's say there's like a link that goes to something. Once you click on it, it automatically generates like the link in Canada and it detects that I'm in Quebec. So it puts it in French, but it loses the trace of where I was. So let's say like, I don't know, you post a link about like Top Dasher or something. When I click on it, it first of all goes to DoorDash Canada's website. It goes to French and it goes to like the main page because like, where are you now? So no, there's no way for me to log in. Like I remember Pedro at one point was talking about like logging into your account and doing stuff. I tried that. I can't do that. I can't like,
So
yeah.
you don't know what your yearly earnings are at the end of the year?
No, I have to tally everything up. And
so what happens if you forget a week?
Well, yeah, exactly. You're kind of screwed, right?
Well, then that was going to become my next question too. Like, do you guys have like our version of an IRS audit? How often does that happen?
Yeah. So the CRA can audit you. Like when I was in university, I used to get audited because they were like, huh, what, you know? So they can audit you. And now with the whole new bill, DoorDash is going to have to provide our social insurance number or a business number to the CRA. So I'm hoping that now they're going to provide us with some kind of information, some kind of documentation, but there's nothing. And with Uber, we get the weekly earnings or whatever that they send you by email every Monday. But you can also go into, you don't get that?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Every Monday I get an email from Uber and it tells me what my earnings are for the past week. Are you serious?
Yeah. I'm like, what?
We need to get somebody from like India on the show and see how they get theirs too, because they're like, yeah, it arrives by elephant on Thursday.
And I'm like, what? I mean, you can get your earnings on the app, but I'll be honest, I don't even pay attention to it because it comes at the end of the year.
Well, that's what made me wonder.
Really?
I know they're trying to crack down in Canada, and they're trying to make you do now those tax documents, but it makes me wonder in years past how much they really look into this, like if you're not reporting it.
Oh, I'm sure they they didn't. And they made me realize, like, hey, if so many people are either leaving the workforce or people are struggling, they must be turned into something. So they know that people are turned into independent contractors type work, but they're like, wait, but people aren't declaring this. Like, the amount of comments that I have been getting on my Instagram, in the comments on the video that I did about Bill C-47, about people saying, like, this one person was like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. I didn't declare my $100 last year. Like, what's going to happen? And I'm like, okay, well, $100, not the end of the world, but you can just adjust your taxes. But so many people, they're like, wait, so we're going to have to start declaring in 2024? And I'm like, you should have been declaring before. Like, what do you mean start?
They didn't ask you that, though. They said, so we're going to have to start. So they knew. They were like, wait a minute, we can't do this illegal shady thing anymore.
Exactly.
I can't get away with it anymore.
Can't get away with it at all.
Darn that government.
You know, see, and again, look at how the different countries are treating it. That look
Yeah.
at hers is just saying, you know, put in your what would be an equivalent of a social
Like
or
an
an
honor
EIN.
system.
Ours
Yeah.
is passing legislation in 16 states without a definition to the app-based platform gig economy.
Yeah,
Wait,
so
wait a
different.
minute. So if you don't get your year-end totals, what's the check and balance to make sure that what you're entering it in is correct on your taxes?
Diana's brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's-
I made $5,000 last year.
Yeah, that's my point. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess my part of what I'm saying is, I mean, I'm sure that even other countries look at those type statistics. And again, the US is even looking at it. We know that in Massachusetts, they say, look at, we are trying to end this writing off mileage crap for you guys. We're sick of it. I know you guys talked a little bit about Mass last night because Sergio and I have talked about it at length because they tried to do something a couple of years ago. Now they're trying to do it and it's worse now. But they're trying to they're saying you guys, they're basically saying all of you gig workers lie on your taxes and you do not drive this amount of miles. And we're sick of it. That's the plain English of it. They want to start not paying you as much. They want to know what the hell you're doing. They want more proof. And they're not really sure how to get it. But they want proof. They want to know how you're writing off all these miles. And I guess what part of what I'm saying is I guarantee like the people who said it to Cheyenne, like, what? Now I got to really declare this for real? Like it's no joke. I mean, my guess is a lot of people do write off miles that they didn't do. I'm going to be honest. You know,
Or don't declare income.
I mean, I would be very careful, you guys. Sergio and I had a conversation not too long ago about a guy. Now, Sergio knows the guy better than I do. I know of him, but he's in Portland, Oregon, not Maine. And he does rideshare, and he kept his records how we do, how I did when I was doing rideshare, how Sergio does. He was doing it what we would be telling people. This is how you do it. He was keeping records like that. He got a state audit, and the state audit came in, and he was like, well, here's all my records. Here's my miles. Here's this, that, and the other. And they're like, well, okay, so all this, these are your totals. Where are your receipts for your customers? And he's like, what the hell are you talking about? He's like, these are all Uber and Lyft customers. Get it from them. They won't share anything with me. That's not my information. And in the audit, they said they're your customers. They're not Uber and Lyft. So they knew that mechanism of the piece. And they said, it's not them. You're the independent contractor. It's on you. Where is your client list? And he's like, you got to be kidding me. I did like 14,000 rides last year. I don't have any names, not even one. And so he ended up getting like a $5,000 or $6,000 fine.
That's so
because
crazy.
they said that's not on Uber. And my thought was, dude, you should be after Uber.
Yeah.
I mean,
would think.
you're right. Uber should not have the names of those clients, but we shouldn't either. I mean, and if we're supposed to have those, we damn well should be mailed those.
Do you know how long that would be? Like,
I don't care. If you got an audit and you're going to get fined $6,000, I don't care. You need it. I mean, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I don't want to see it happen either, but you know what I mean? It's, But I know you guys got into a little bit of tips. I just kind of want to get into all this because is anybody in the chat who's watched some of what we've talked about or seen articles on the New York thing? Does anybody think it's a good idea? Anybody? Is anybody like, I'm stoked for that? Because I feel like I can rip it apart all day from every direction. Like I can on any direction you give me, I can rip it apart. It's so easy. And I have seen a lot of people saying we're stoked. Really? It's a game. Like you're not really making 30 an hour because you're not going to have an active hour every hour. And especially after the holidays, because I guarantee they're trying to pump it right now and make it look good. So, I mean, like after the holidays, and plus you got the immigrant saturation, the triple saturation, you got the oversaturation. And we know, I think I even brought it in here because Kim had brought this up, this screenshot. I used this from yours last night.
Do you have it?
Yeah. And so, I mean, this is a problem. Because this says that, it's basically talking about, if you guys can't read it real well, it's basically talking about, starting in January, you're going to be encouraged to reserve times in advance to guarantee your spots. But then in the next paragraph, it goes into when you get access to Planner, the number of times available to you will depend on a few factors. The number of trips you completed the previous month, your usage of the time you reserved during the previous month. So if you reserve and you're not working those shifts, they're going to hold that against you. Your acceptance rate, your satisfaction rating. Delivery people in NYC are also entitled to the minimum hourly pay rate for their time on the platform, which is $29.93 per hour of trip time, which is active time, the time from when you accept to when you drop off. So, I mean, look, that second paragraph should scare everybody.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, it's basically saying we've talked about this. That's exactly what happened with rideshare in New York City, and it failed. The people who were killing it had to move to this block system. They couldn't get all the blocks they wanted. They couldn't work the midnight shift on Friday anymore. They couldn't just do these really tougher shifts that made them 50, 60 an hour. And even when they did, they were only making like 35 now because they had to balance out the people who only made 8. Because again, guys, do not for a minute think that Uber or DoorDash is paying that. They're taking it from the top earners. They're moving it to those. We've used this term forever. It's floor meets ceiling. There it is. And that's what happened with rideshare. Everybody ended up making whatever they called it, $28.86. Okay, that's what eventually, within a few months, that's what everybody made. The worst and the best drivers, with very little variation. So, I mean, like, what is the encouragement to be a hustler?
There is none, because you can't do that anymore anyways. Like,
no, I mean, you might as well do what they do in California. We already know this. Rideshare drivers were supposed to benefit by Prop 22. They didn't. The only people who did were the delivery people. And that's because they didn't know that there was a global pandemic coming 3 months after AB5 passed. So when Prop 22 passed, they still benefit from it. But now the line item is being shown in California, and right out of the gate, it was being shown in New York. They're showing it right now that the customer has to pay this. Now they're showing the customer has to pay X amount in California. And so with the uppage of the processing, the uppage of the delivery fee, the uppage of and we already know New York's doing this too. They're raising the prices of the restaurant prices again, another move. But like, so if you were getting tips in California before, now if you're a delivery driver in California, most of them that I know, you are working for Prop 22, and you're just taking your old sweet time on active orders because there's no incentive and you're not getting a tip. People are now being charged so much more, and they were told that drivers are being paid so much, they don't want to tip you.
Yeah.
And that's California, where it's 120% of minimum wage, which in California is $16 to $19.88, depending on where you live. So even at the $19.88, if you call it 120% is $24 in an active hour. New York City just announced $30. So what happens to the people who order the food, who see their prices going up and know, well, these drivers are being paid $30 an hour. they don't understand active dash time. They just think you're being paid $30 an hour. So the tips are gone.
So well, I should say Sergio did a really good job covering last night. Is people don't realize their utilization rate,
Yes.
which the average driver in New York City is active 60% of the hour. So when you take 60% of the $29.93, I can't remember what the math was. I think
It
it was
came out to 18 something.
was it $17 or $18, is truly what the
number
average
is.
the number is per hour in New York City, because DoorDash isn't keeping their drivers active for a full hour. And that's the misleading part that a lot of people aren't seeing. Is you see the $29.93 and go, oh my God, I'm going to make almost $30 an hour. That's amazing. I want $30 an hour, not realizing it is active time, which we all know DoorDash. They are not going to keep every driver in New York City active for an entire hour, every single hour of the entire day.
No.
And you guys don't overlook the second paragraph here. It's telling you the same thing that they did to this is almost exactly what the rideshare thing read years ago. That second paragraph says they're going to be using blocks. Watch when it moves to only blocks. Because when they did that with the rideshare drivers, how it worked was that the top 10% got to schedule their blocks first. Then the next 30% got to schedule, and then they had a Monday schedule for anybody else for anything that was left over. So basically, even if you were hustling and only doing it 20 hours a week, you were always in the bottom feeder mode, and you could barely even get 20 hours a week. They definitely would not be the ones that you wanted to work. Flex time was gone.
Now, we didn't use it last night, and we just ran out of time to use it. But I actually had a screenshot of somebody's weekly pay for the very first week that was in New York City. And when you look at like I compared it to even my earnings. So my tips are usually like 75 to 80% of my earnings. This person's tips, it was a $900 and I forget whatever dollar a week, and their tips were $110.
Right. I saw some adjustments that I was like kind of blown away with, that I think they're just doing in the initial rollout. They did the same thing with Rideshare too, that almost the opposite made it look really good. You know what I mean? Because it was like, hey, you only were paid 43, but you should have been paid 200. Here's the difference. Like I saw some of those type screenshots and I'm going, dude, this is how they make you think this is something you want. Trust me, guys, you don't want this. I mean,
this was
it's a rabbit's hair away from an employee.
Yeah, so this was the breakdown. The person did $987. The dash pay, so base pay, was $418. The adjustment pay, which is the New York pay, was $444. So it's like 50% of that. And then the customer tips were only $113.
That's crazy.
And that's in this first week that it's rolled out. Give it 2 months. Watch. I mean, like Zach and I agreed yesterday. I know you saw that, Kim. I said, listen, he said, what do you think tips will be? I said, initially I said 5 to 10% will tip of orders. But then I said, but give it 2 months and 0 will tip.
Well, this is the even crazier thing. So he was ready for this. His dash time was 59 hours. His active time was 29 hours. So DoorDash kept him only active for like 30 of like half of what he actually worked.
You know, I see Ceci saying great pay adjustment. Yeah, but I mean, for New York City, like Kim mentioned, 100 and some odd tips. He should be making $1,000 in tips. I mean, I don't know. Am I wrong? I would imagine you can't really hold that job.
No, that's not going to pay.
If you're not going to make that kind of, I mean, even like I being in the bar industry and stuff and doing all the traveling I've done, I know that like waiters in New York City are much different than waiters in any other city. They need to make $60 an hour. kind of thing. Like that, they have a different goal. You know, it's not like other cities. So I mean, like they're trying to kill off the tipping culture, and they're trying to do it in the city in this country that needs it the most.
Exactly. Like, why would that be the first one that you decide
Because
to do?
it's
It doesn't
because
really
it's
make any sense.
mega blue, and it's got just the most worst people running the state. I
Well,
mean,
but
really.
Soda said that DoorDash said that 1/5 are post tipping in the first week that they rolled it out. 1/5, really?
Wait, 1/5 what? Where
At 9:48, his comment at 9:48.
Okay. That's okay. DD said 1/5. Yeah, but first of all, I would never listen to anything DoorDash says. If DoorDash says 1/5, I think they mean 1/500th. They left 2 zeros off it. I mean, I'm not kidding either. Like, they're just scumbags. I don't trust them at all. I mean, they've already been caught stealing our tips twice. One of the times they told the court that it was almost like and I didn't know I couldn't do that, because they said it was when Dashers were being paid X amount to do jobs. This is a while back. And it was like, well, they know what they're making. So if somebody tips after the fact, they already took it and knew what they were. No. What? And how are you even walking into courts and saying that kind of crap out loud? Like, you're going to like literally try and explain to a judge why tips aren't going to the customer instead of just saying system malfunction, will pay the fine. Sorry about that. I mean, even if it's a lie, I would say that I wouldn't be in there and be like, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't feel like giving them the tips.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
I think real quick. I
No,
think
go.
Gary said that if I remember correctly, he said that. Sorry, I have to go back. How do we know it was DoorDash? Though he could have been declining orders, like cherry picking. He absolutely could have been cherry picking to get through. But the thing with this, and this is what's faulty about the system, at least in my opinion, is the more you cherry pick, the less you're on dash time, not active time, because you're not taking orders. And I feel like that's the game.
Then your
that DoorDash is
utilization rate
playing.
goes.
So exactly. And then that's the reason why you're going to get the 50% of utilization, is because they might be sending you crap orders, and that's what they're going to do because they're trying to get them delivered. But it's either you take it and you stay active, or you don't take it and you don't stay active and you don't get paid the active time. It's like, it's such a game.
Look, in a nutshell, DoorDash is going to make more money off this. They've raised processing, they've raised delivery fees, they're raising the restaurant prices, they're passing along a big portion of the fee to the customer out of the gate. Boom, you're going to pay that. So they're teaching now. They rolled out that BS thing. We said we thought it was just going to be BS. It's probably because all this was coming about how they were saying, we're warning people they better tip. Well, where are those articles now? Those articles are gone, because you know what? Because they're now training you to not tip.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee it, you guys watch. If this continues, watch, there won't be tipping. And then when there isn't the order volume either, and if your utilization rate's 50%, okay, then you're making $15 an hour without tips in New York City. And if you're busting your tail, who knows that your utilization rate won't be 50% anyway?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's not like they're in need of dashers in New York City.
No.
New York City dashers go to Kim's Market because it's so oversaturated.
Wait, Ceci, how does that work? So she said, I've been seeing nothing but great offers, even with no tips.
Well, she only does Grubhub.
Oh.
For one. So Ceci's got something going on that most people don't. Like I've joked about, I would be done if I just did DoorDash. I'm glad for her, and actually I'm probably really, sadly, we all know this, that before the pandemic, Grubhub was the only legit one. They were fully transparent. They showed everything up front. And then it was the pandemic that let Uber Eats and DoorDash step all over them and kind of put them out of business in a way. I mean, like, I know they're still around, but I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I saw anybody in here saying they think it's a good idea. I don't know if I missed it, and I don't know if nobody wanted to answer it, but even if you don't live in New York City, if you're aware of what's going on, do you think it's a good idea? Please put it in the chat. I want to see what you guys.
The only way it is ever a good idea is if, and we will never see the day that DoorDash can guarantee that they can keep drivers active for an entire hour. That's the only way that it would actually ever be beneficial to the driver. And that will never happen.
So here's Bud Soda too. And I agree with this. This is exactly the kind of way the rideshare thing went. So first of all, you have a very small percentage of people saying, I want to be an employee. And they made enough noise in a blue state to make this thing pass. And really the majority of people don't want it. And yet those are the people who are going, I can't earn, I only make $8 an hour. We know those are the lazy people. Come on. If you want to hustle, you hustle. And if not, I've said this before and I don't mind saying it. Some people are not made for the gig economy. Some people are not made for the service industry. Don't do it. If you're not
for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not gonna look in the restaurant and bar industry, like you get yelled at, even if you're crushing it and doing a good job. I've had to yell at a cook or something, and then after the shift, it's like, dude, I'm sorry I blew up at you. Whatever. I'm like, you're dealing with a lot of crap, and that's not for everybody. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just saying, I also wanted to see Scrabble's comment here. So they're increasing base pay to avoid the adjustment. They'll play with it between now and April when they have to adjust for inflation. So you're saying that they're increasing base pay. But I mean, what's the point? Just to make it look better? Because in the end, it's 50 cents a minute active time. I mean, if you stay active for a whole hour, you make $30. So even if they make base pay and you can only do 2 an hour and they make the base pay 15, it's just, again, to me, that just seems like a mind game. Like, look at the new base pay. Yeah, but that's not, and that's what I'm going to get paid anyway.
I agree. Where did it go? I agree with Cody. I hope this crap never comes here.
You guys, say what you want, but don't get too comfortable in any market thinking legislation ain't hitting you. Because you guys were talking last night, and Zach was like 14. I had to correct him. I was like 16. And he's like, okay, 16. Yep, 16 states pushing legislation. I mean, look on the audio podcast on January, I think it's January 8th is a Monday. So it drops on the 9th. I have Kim Cavan. The week after, I have Mike Harubi, and both of those are labor law related. So those are going to be very timely in the new year. And they know a lot of what's going on. Mike especially. Kim knows a lot about independent contractor traditional, and she's starting to get her hand into this game too, and she knows a lot more than all of us. But Mike is all about this be your own boss legislation. So I don't know. I think that little number of people, we've said this many times, even here in Colorado, nobody writes their congressman and says, bang up job, thanks, good job, keep it up. You only write them when you're pissed. And yet these small numbers are like coming across as like, if 500 people write in, they're like, that's a lot of constituents. We better take care of this. What they don't realize is there's 50,000, 500,000 gig workers there. And they're like, I don't think your sample size of 100 is real good, guys. Like, you might want to check in with some other people. I don't know. I really don't know, guys. I am very worried. I know that the DoorDash is now they're trying to, before the start of the year, push this 50 cents, or it might be translated because maybe if you live rural somewhere, some of the markets out of the 16 states that are pushing legislation, some of those markets are now trying to push this New York thing. not Prop 22, but this New York thing. They want a per minute thing. Might not be 50 cents, it might be 40, but if you're living somewhere that's a lot cheaper in New York, it's still going to look like that same big amount of numbers. They're trying to do it before the new year, where legislation's coming, to make it look how much hourly they can make.
Yeah.
But in the end, it will destroy tipping. And I got to tell you guys, if you're not in the know, this is just like the labor movement of this administration wanting everybody to be a union employee. And we all know that's not a doable thing, but they do. They want everybody to be a union employee. This administration, they would have had the federal, the PRO Act if they could have. But if they're trying to get around that by saying that on active time, trust me, it's moving that close to employee model. And the states have had it with these companies. They're not gonna just buy anything anymore. Oh, okay, you're gonna fix it. Good. Glad to hear it. They're over it. They've given them 100 chances. They've been lied to 100 times. Nobody meets the deadlines, and they're sick of it.
I'll be honest. I'm nervous for New Jersey just because we're so close to New York City. Like, a lot of times things that happen in New York were neighboring states. They kind of get on the same bandwagon, and boom, next thing you know, we're kind of following suit. So I'll be honest. I'm nervous for New Jersey, to be honest.
Wait, so I gotta bring this
there.
Aren't these legislation? Isn't this legislation put in place to help drivers? Why must we put it in a negative light? Because a small amount of drivers wanted it. The problem is it's just like any survey or something. The sample size was way too small. All they took were the complaints. And they said, okay, we need to, and you got an administration that wants us all to be employees. So they love this. Oh, we got 50 people who will say that this doesn't work. Great. Let's push it. Like, normal administrations would be like, why don't you go get 5,000, then we'll talk. But they're like taking a small number. But the problem is that they didn't look at, I follow politics, but I think there's an insane amount of corruption. We all know that. But there's more corruption on the corporate side. So when you put two of the most corrupt entities together and try and make them solve a problem that they haven't been able to solve ever, good luck getting any good results. So when they said, hey, this is for you, the drivers, what did DoorDash do? Okay, we'll raise the prices. We'll run ads. We'll make the driver, they didn't have to do it now. They didn't have to do it till February. Why did they make the driver pay 50 cents a minute now? Because they want press that says our drivers are making 30 an hour. They want that to be the buzz in New York City. Now they've also raised the restaurant prices. They're putting out things in the app that say, sorry that we've had to raise our prices, but due to New York's new law, they're like using it like that. Like, due to what your city is doing to you, we got to charge you more. And this is going to make you not tip. The tipping's after the fact. You're going to get pissed. You're going to get in new habits, and you're not going to tip anymore. And they're okay with that. But who of us doesn't think that New York City has proven, are any of us confused that New York is pushing some of the craziest stuff? Even New Yorkers are leaving. Like, people who've been in the city their whole life, they're leaving. The immigration's gotten just ridiculous. I know about streets that are closed because people live on them. I mean, we have encampments here all over Denver too, but not like what's going on there. And, they're all running these different, I don't know. Everybody seems very disappointed in the politics of New York. It seems like, it's almost laughable. Like, these are the people in charge. And then, I don't like extreme right or left in politics, but that New York's gone as extreme left as you can be. I mean, it's not good for people who want to be independent. And that crosses a whole nother line about, like, how independent are we? Because I always thought we needed a definition here. And now we're getting legislation before the space is defined. And that's the problem, is each state is allowed to just go, you know what? Let's just start making some laws, since we didn't get a definition of how this hybrid traditional or hybrid gig app platform worker thing works. A simple definition would have helped the states even do that. So, and yeah, I mean, Thomas is, yep. So I will hit on that, Thomas, because Thomas knows I mention this all the time. Acceptance rate is illegal. It's illegal by the Barella. It's illegal by the IRS standard. It's illegal by the ABC and ABC Plus. You cannot use an acceptance rate metric. And there's a lot of reasons too, guys. It's not just like, wait, what? So wait, why can't you? You can't because there's a lot of reasons. It goes back to like favoritism and stuff like that. I've actually talked with Kim Cavan at length about this. And yes, you can't have acceptance rate in an independent contractor bidding job. So it doesn't meet. So we always say, do we meet the criteria of being an independent contractor under the ABC test, which you can't pass in California? Those kind of tests exist everywhere. Hopefully you're just going by the IRS standard test in your state, because that's the one that it should be using. But the problem is now, okay, let's say you do pass it. The problem is the things you're supposed to be allowed to use any tools at your disposal without the hiring entity having any say in it. Now, the hiring entity is a digital platform, an SaaS, software as a service, just throwing you offers, but you're not allowed to use any tools you want. So that's breaking independent contractor law. They have to be, the bids have to be transparent. They have to be upfront on the pay. They don't do that. That's breaking the law. I mean, sometimes we can pass the test if it's not a hard ABC test, but how are the companies passing it? Because they're not doing what they're supposed to be, letting us have access to our tools. Their acceptance rating isn't even supposed to be something you see. Because if you're an independent contractor, you bid out the jobs you want. You might bid out 3 jobs at once. You might get accepted to 2 and not to 1. And now you got to pick between those 2. There's no acceptance rating. It's jobs being offered, and do you want them? That's it. But I don't know. Everything seems to be going in the wrong direction. And sadly, I guess my main take is that sadly, for years, the gig companies were able to try and play ball. And I don't mean like give in, but like at least show a little bit of, yeah, we're not going to go for that full labor crap you guys are going for. And we're not going for unions, but we'll work with you. And they've let laws pass. And then when they're told you owe this, they just flip off the government. I mean, if you guys don't think that's just pissed off the government to no end, you're crazy. They're like, okay, we have literally had it with you guys. We've given you every chance. You lie to us. We make court agreements and dates, and you don't pay them. I mean, they can't be trusted anymore. And they're just and nobody. I mean, like Kim Cavan and Karen Anderson understand. Karen Anderson understands AB5 better than Gavin Newsom. That's really sad. He signed that thing into law, and she knows it better than him. I mean, it's just crazy. These politicians have no idea what, and part of it's just they're so confused, like a lot of us are. They don't know. They're like, what are these people? Like in terms of like, are they independent contractors? What are we doing here? And why are these companies not paying the right amount of tax? What's going on? And so I think they've just literally had it. And I think that I've said this a bunch of times. I think it's going to be a great year in the new year for the smaller apps. I think the giants are going to take a hell of beating. And I'm sure they'll pass it on to the driver, but it's still going to be a beating to them too. It's not going to be like a cheap lose, and they can't just pass the whole thing to the driver. But I just think the giants are finally going to take some blows here, because the reason is because, and I'm going to give you my opinion. It's a presidential voting year, not a midterm year. It's a presidential voting year. So this administration has to like at least be thinking they're not going to be reelected. So they have X amount of months to pass what they can. That's why things are going to get shoved into the beginning of the year. And that always happens in the last calendar year of a sitting president. You see a lot of the crap get kicked through that they were having a lot of trouble with. So, 16 states, you guys, that's a lot. That's a big deal. That just so you know, I mean, maybe they were all looking at it, but 3 months ago, it was only like 7. I mean, I don't know. I'm concerned. I think everybody's a little concerned. But I think that I'm with you guys. I hope it doesn't come here. I really hope it doesn't come to Colorado. And if it does, luckily, I've worked with Stephanie. I've, even though Sergio chewed his face off for a few minutes, like met the senator, like
poor Senator
cornering him
Carroll,
like
I'm
a badger.
So
Where are you going? Like, and the senator was a big guy too, by the way.
He was a lot bigger. He was a built guy.
Yeah. And Sergio still had him like a Wolverine in the corner. Like, he ain't going nowhere, bro. He's like, I remember him saying, I'm the guy that's been bugging you on Twitter.
Wow. What an intro.
But I mean, at the same time, like if that, if it starts to move here, I will be very involved. So I'm going to say, and I know it always sounds like, dude, I don't have the time. I got to feed my family and all. But if we start talking about your state and we're giving, like I told Kim, I don't even remember the guy's name, but like, I don't care if you vote right, left, down the middle, extreme right, left. There is somebody that if you are a full-time gig worker, you need to vote against this guy. I don't even know if he's left or right. But we have his name. Kim Cavan said he wants full AB5 in New Jersey. He wants every independent contractor to be a union employee. And he is running for governor now. He was just a congressman before, but now he's running for New Jersey governor. And I don't care where you stand. You got to vote against this guy. This is where I think we all need to grow up a little bit with politics. Like, look at the politician and your life. Because all politicians lie. All politicians pull some crap. But vote with what's going to help your family.
Yeah.
I don't know. When I was younger, I used to vote on like who I thought was the best candidate. To be honest, you got to dig into a lot and see what their track record is of fulfilling their promises, all kinds of stuff. But really, the biggest backing points of their platform should align with your financial, the way you want to live, that kind of stuff. You don't need to look like their face or whatever. It's not about that, but you should look into where they stand on labor law, because that's a big one. They definitely will have a viewpoint. But yeah, I don't know. Unions don't belong here. I've heard a lot of people. I've seen a lot of comments on my 13 video saying like, dude, I've said it forever. We need to go to unions. We don't need to go to if this was not designed to be unions, you guys. If you want a minimum wage job, go get one. Again, Sergio said it last night. I've said it a million times. We've all said it. If you're saying that you can't get a job, bullshit. They're out there. Go get a job.
So many jobs out there.
If you're trying to drop a grenade into the gig economy because it doesn't work for you, I question if you're right for the gig economy or for the service industry. And in which case, go get a job that even pays you more with benefits. I understand you might lose the flexibility, and that's like, you're like, no, I'm not willing to do that. Well, you might have to be, because unfortunately, like when I ran the bar, I would just fire a lot lot of you. Like I really would. I'd be like, you're fired.
You're fired. You were fired.
Yeah. Like, no worries. Done. You guys are all fired. But we're in a place where you can't fire even the worst of them. And the best of them could be deactivated for no reason at all.
Yeah. That too.
You could just be deactivated tomorrow with no explanation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Thomas. Appreciate that. Yeah, people don't like hearing the truth. You're right. But I think it's look, if we don't talk about the truth's going to get a lot worse. Because I think they count on a lot of, 85% of gig workers that work 17 hours or less a week. And then the 65% of gig workers who work less than 7 hours a week. 65% work less than 7 hours, guys. That means 85% of the California gig workers don't even qualify for the health stipend. That's why nobody's using it. It was a ploy. It was a joke.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one thing after the next. But if it starts moving union, I mean, how many of you people would be W-2 for these companies, even for a good amount of money? I wouldn't.
I wouldn't. I couldn't.
I mean, yeah, I'm saying even if they offered me, I have other skills too. So like, even if they even offered me a desk job or something, hey, we'll pay $100,000. I wouldn't work for these. I don't trust them. I'd be like, why? I'll be fired in a year for no reason.
But then not only that, like people come to this for the flexibility. As we spoke about when we had that podcast with me and you, I could not. There is no way that I could do okay, you have to be here for this time. It wouldn't work. And a lot of people are in that same situation.
This is Dana, who will be joining us on the Christmas game show next week. He's a good friend of mine in Boston. He's been doing curry as long as me, almost 3 years, and he's exactly right. So if you guys, I'll read it in case anybody's driving and you can't read this. The comment we have up is, it's an awful lot to ask people to use reason and logic to vote for candidates with actual policies when it's so much easier to vote for good-looking smooth talkers. By the way, Dana lives in Boston. He has that legislation coming down on him, and he stays very much on top of the political stuff like I do. He's one of the few that does. So he actually knows a lot about all this. So I don't know. I know Tom was going to do 2 stories for us tonight. I don't know if I know Kim's like I'm so tired.
It's been such a long.
I don't know if Cheyenne had one. Tom had 2 that he was going to do, and both of them were perfect for Tom. One was the trying to build out the infrastructure. So hopefully we won't talk about it next week, but I'll put the links in the show notes because they are good articles. One's on the trucking industry for Uber Freight teaming up with something. We've seen these all a bunch before, but it's more about creating the infrastructure for the trucks, which we used to say on the TNC radio show all the time, was that, look, why are you making all these trucks if there's nowhere to charge them? You gotta build the infrastructure before you just give everybody a truck that's electric. But the other one too was it was something related to the I can't remember. It was something maybe autonomous or something to do with Tesla, but I don't know. Cheyenne, did you have anything crazy happening up there? See, she lives in a nice part of the world where it's like, we're not really dealing with all this crap.
Well, we're usually behind. So if you guys are dealing with it now, then we might be dealing with it later on.
Yeah,
that's the only thing. But you know, the cap on I didn't prepare this beforehand, sorry, but I just Googled it quickly. You know, the cap on the rideshare drivers in Toronto that was put on Uber. We spoke about this maybe like a month ago. It's been scrapped.
Yeah.
So the city is going to resume issuing what is that called? The what's that? Not the medallions, because that's taxis, but the like the licenses so that people can actually do rideshare in Toronto.
Oh, it's
because remember it was on pause.
Right, the TNC license.
They had put it on pause because they said, you know, gas emissions and all that kind of whatever craziness, that they wanted to limit the amount of drivers that were on the road. Well, Uber brought them to court 2 weeks ago or last week. And today, just came out today, they rescind the cap. So now they're going to be able to have new Uber drivers. Because a lot of drivers also were very upset about it. And
of course they were
very, very loudly about it.
But I'm guessing they're still gonna make you do the training, which I liked.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they don't take that part away because we don't have that here, and I think that's a much needed thing, and it also helps weed out those BS people.
Yeah, that part I'm not sure.
You know, because they had integrated at the same time they integrated that cap, they integrated that you had to kind of what Europe does, but in a more shortened version. It was like a week-long class you had to take. And if you already were a rideshare driver, you grandfathered in, you didn't need to take it. But if you were going to become one, you had to. So
yeah. Tony.
No cap. Hey, what's up, Chuck? How you doing?
Oh goodness. But yeah, that was the only thing.
Okay. And I know Kim's got nothing, unless Kim, you got a last thing from last night that was like a high point that we missed.
No, I think we covered a lot that we covered last night tonight. If you missed it, like I said, Sergio did a really good like math breakdown with a calculator and everything. Really, he's such a
Even at
math
a
guy.
calculator.
He's fantastic. But he did like the full breakdown to give the reel of what it really entails for New York City. So go check it out if you haven't done so already, just because I feel like he explains it so much better in person with a calculator, and so that's because he's such a math guy that he really broke it down for everybody to understand it. So no
matter which angle you look, there's just no wins, guys.
No. I'm like, yeah.
But I will say about their show last night, the whole show you should go watch. Don't try and find that part. Just watch it start to end. It was a really good show.
It was a good show.
Thank you.
Not that it isn't always, but I mean, last night's you guys should go watch it.
I felt like it was a good discussion from kind of all angles last night. So I think everybody had like their own opinion.
Even the chat.
It was really
all
good hearing what everybody thought about it.
And Zach said that Kim was right.
Thank you.
Twice.
And we had video.
You better cut that out and make it a short or something.
We'll have to send.
Put it on loop.
If Chris is still here, Chris, I'm going to send you the clip to play as a short.
But yeah, it was just a good show. There were a lot of interesting points raised, even in the chat. I was listening to you guys. I was engaged in the chat. It was one of those nights. It was, but I'd tell everybody to go back and watch it for sure. There's a lot of them. And look, we don't want to keep talking about this. And next week, I'm going to put it up here, guys, one last time before we walk out. So, Cheyenne, Kim, do you guys have anything coming up unique other than the norms or?
No, nothing planned. I will be doing a live. I just don't know when.
Okay. So next week we are going to be doing a game show, and I have not put it together yet, but I've got some ideas. And so I need to go do a little research. You guys know that I've done some of these before. The last time we did one wasn't really a game show. It was just trivia questions, but I've done game show type ones with Long Island and weird stuff. But I'm going to try and do this one a little different. But yeah, by the way, so this is our cast. This is who will be participating in the game show. So if you don't know those people, you will next week. They're all people that many of you probably do know. Maybe you're not picking them up right away from the pictures, but we have 9 contestants, and then me, and I think we're going to have some audience participation. So be here next week. You guys will be part of this too, the chat. So
there's a lot of different personalities going on in that group.
That's why I like it. I love it. I literally picked we got a Dasher pass coming back. She's like, I haven't even done gig work in a year. I'm like,
haven't
it's a game show.
Faith in I feel like a year. I'm excited.
Faith was just out here. She's coming back out in January. The reason I talked, I don't know if you guys know this, she's now running last season she ran the snowboard park at Killington. So her Faith and I share a lot of love for snowboarding, and so but it's gonna be fun to have her on. And then if you didn't notice some of the other people, we got just some randoms. It's gonna be fun. We got people like Dana, who was just in here commenting. He's gonna be on that, and he's got a lot of legislative back. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be super fun. And we'll make it super fun. So you guys, that's it for the week. It's been a long week for all of us. I don't know if it's just the hours starting to wear down too, because I know, is it the 21st is like the shortest day of the year, and then we start moving back to longer days. That's when it flips.
Oh,
I I think
like
it is.
she
I think
knows
it's
the
the winter
winter?
solstice on the 21st.
And
I
so I
think
know the
that's
first day
the-
of winter is the 21st.
Yeah, me too.
I think I thought it was the shortest day of the year too, like sunrise to
Okay,
sunset.
possibility. I'll ask my
And then it
daughter. I feel
starts
like she
growing
knows
again.
everything. She knows a lot more
I
than
remember
I
when
do.
Kim's daughter was like 1. Now she knows everything.
I'm telling you, they learn so much. They're like sponges in school at 6 years old. She comes home and they're like, so mommy, the other day when it was first day of Hanukkah, she woke up in the morning. She goes, it's Hanukkah. And I'm like, okay. Our Christmas tree is up in the next room, but okay.
You guys,
Hanukkah,
thank you for watching. Thank you for watching on the replay. And thank you all for a lot of you guys just for everything this year. Come back, watch us next week. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We are taking a 2-week break. December 28th and January 4th, back on the 11th. So don't miss next week because we've never really taken a break before. I'm gonna have 2 pre-recorded things happen on those off weeks, but we won't be here live. So don't miss next week. And thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subbing our channels and getting Cheyenne to 1,000 just recently. Just everything, guys. For the hard year we've all faced in the gig economy, I am very thankful for so many of you. It just even helps me to talk through it with some of you guys sometimes, because the frustration gets high and we don't have a common workplace that we all go to, so it's
this is our water cooler.
Yeah, this is our water cooler.
it's a break room.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. We appreciate you. And we will see you back here next week. Peace, everybody.
I'm driving my life away.